day, ladies and gentlemen. Today on Forum Myanmar, our interview candidate is someone who really is a seasoned expert in technology, currently the Executive Director of Service Co., a big global IT company. He is also the perfect fit for our program. First coming from Nigeria, but having lived and worked in 23 countries, he is a citizen of the world, in the true sense of the words. His experience in Myanmar has now reached its 5th year. Now we're about to interview him about it in his private office, so follow me. And his name is Odia Ukoko.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Great. You got here okay? Something
Yes,
all
all
right?
good.
Excellent.
Dessert?
Thank you. Great cake. So thank you for coming through. Please step in.
Hello, Mr. Ukoko. Pleasure to meet you, and thanks for accepting the interview.
Thank you very much for inviting me to join you, and it's my pleasure to be here.
So firstly, before you arrived to Myanmar back in 2014, what did you know and how did you first come to learn about this country?
It's interesting because I first learned about Burma, as we called it then, from conversations with my grandmother. And during the Second World War, a lot of Nigerian soldiers served in Burma as part of the British Army. And so there were, lots of conversations going up about, things that happened in Burma. I mean, it was a war, so it wasn't very great things, but I learned of the country and I sort of got to know the country. But in terms of how I actually ended up here, it all started in California. We were there for a company retreat in a city called Monterey, and we had gone out for the day, had a few activities, and then we headed back to the bar to have a few drinks. And I was walking to the bathroom, and this guy was walking next to me, and he says to me, "Hey, would you like to go to Myanmar?" And I go, "Sorry, who are you?" And then he introduces himself. So then I was running the business of I was heading up the data warehouse division of a company called EMC, which is called Pivotal Services at EMC, for Asia Pacific in Japan. And he was my counterpart looking after Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And they had done a deal with a company called Tunisiana and Owidu in Algeria. And Owidu had approached them about Owidu in Myanmar, and they said to me, "Whoa, would you like to do it?" And I go, "Ooh." Anyway, so we got talking about it, and one thing led to the other, and I found myself on a plane coming to Yangon. So that is essentially, it was a conversation going to the bathroom or in the bathroom somewhere that led to my coming to Myanmar.
Oh wow, that's what brought you. Right. I learned that you were greatly consistent in your line of work with 4GL tools and relational database management systems. You pride more than 29 years of experience in that field. I imagine would be priceless. It is, I assume, something of your genuine interest and passion. How did your passion for that line of work grow?
It would be interesting to say I like my work. Nobody likes their work, really. We like the things the work gives us. It just helps if you're good at what you do, and then it becomes easier to bear. So I started university. My first year was studying industrial mathematics and statistics, which is an interesting course. And in the second year, we got so Sam said, "Hey, we're putting together a computer science department, computer technology department. Would you like to be part of it?" And I kind of wanted to, but anyway, we didn't have much of a choice. My whole department got moved into computer tech. So I did it through university, and I do enjoy the cold logic of IT. It's either right or it's wrong. It's not like philosophy where you argue points and subjective interpretation. And I am not sure whether I am binary yes or no because I'm in computer technology, I work in IT, or I'm in IT because I'm binary yes or no. But all in all, it suits my personality.
Good. So 5 years of doing what you love in this country must have been eventful. Could you pick out one specific experience working with the locals here that was most memorable to you? It would be interesting to know, especially either because it was very funny or shocking, maybe.
My time in Myanmar has been an adventure. The difference now is as you get older, you handle things a bit different. It wasn't so much the locals, but the way of life, things. So when I finally made contact with the Ooredoo Myanmar team and we said, okay, fine, come over, let's have a meeting. The first thing I did was, sort of make arrangements to hotel, transportation, phone, make sure my phone works. And I found there were only 2 countries in the world where an Australian phone could not roam. And it was North Korea and Myanmar. And I was like, whoa, this is going to be an interesting experience. So that was the first shock. And I'm thinking, if my phone is not roaming, how do I make calls? Eventually, I got here, and one other thing they told me was, when you're coming here and you're going to apply for a visa, you need a brand new $50 note. And I go, a $50 note is a $50 note. They go, no, you need a brand new $50 note. You need like crispy, not touch, nothing. So I get on the plane with this $50 note, which I put in the middle of a book to make sure nothing happens to it. And it was shocking because this whole queue of people just handing, brand new $50 notes, and it was the introduction to Myanmar, and then it was, things were quite not where they are today. Getting a taxi from the airport was like, wow, big drama. Getting internet service in the hotel where I was staying was like big drama. Very few hotels around and very expensive. There were no coffee shops, which got me because you couldn't walk up to a Starbucks or a Coffee Bean and get a coffee. My client then, so we do Myanmar, were at a location at MI City Park, which was literally in the middle of nowhere from my point of view. And if it rained, right, that was it. You're not getting, this was before Grab, so you couldn't call a Grab, so you had to go stand in the rain and wait for a taxi, which wasn't very lucky. If you had to work late, you had to contend with a lot of stray dogs. So I had situations where I'd be in the hotel and a colleague, basically you get an email that says, hey, can you come and get a taxi and come and pick me up at the office? And I go, why? So, well, I can't walk out because there's lots of stray dogs on the road. So you grab a taxi from the hotel, you go back there, pick him up. And it was interesting. It was an interesting adventure, but a lot has changed. A lot has changed. Also, one thing I noticed, I think, on the first day coming out of the airport, was a lot of women had this powdery stuff on their cheeks. So I first thought, oh, maybe she like had an accident or something like that. She got burnt or something like that. But I noticed everyone seemed to do it, and so I had to check. So, oh yes, it's kind of like cosmetic. I go, oh, wow. Yeah, so it was really quite interesting.
I see. Well, could you tell us some few more interesting things about your workplace situation in Myanmar, about its facilities and people?
The staff, I think they've had a lot of, initially when I started dealing with them, a lot more foreigners working for the company. Now it's still switched and you have a lot more locals moving up the ranks. It's still a bit, I think one of the things I find most interesting about Myanmar people is that they can just wake up one day and quit a job. Just go, you know what, yeah, I'm done working. And you go, who's going to pay for your bills? Oh, my family will take care of me. So I don't know. I came to a situation where I've always worked all my life. So I've been working for about a month before I graduated, and I haven't stopped ever since. So when I encounter people who just go, you know what, if you stress me, I'm going to quit. I go, whoa, I wish I could do that. But that does happen quite here a bit. But all in all, I think it's a world apart. So Myanmar today is a world away from Myanmar that I saw in 2015, 2016, completely. It's just, it's just gone very positive, I think.
All right. How is your work experience in Myanmar majorly different from the rest 20 plus countries you've worked in?
It's different because every country is different in its own way. All countries have their quirks. They're quite different. And I collect interesting stories. So each country has their traits, their characteristics, and their amusement. And one of the things I struggle with in Myanmar is that I haven't managed to pick up the language. When I say pick up the language, I learned to speak Slovak when I lived in Slovakia to a workable extent, not professionals. I still had to use translators, but I could converse, I could go shopping, I could go to the supermarket. I still haven't been able to do that in Myanmar for some strange reason. The language doesn't take. I could do a bit of it in Indonesia, so I could give taxi directions. I still can't do that here. But the struggle I've had in Myanmar, which is getting better, was there are not many English speakers. When I first got here, it was really hard. But it's getting better. You run into people who speak English. You can go into the stores and get some help. But one thing that being in Myanmar had in common with other countries was initially when you had a meeting session and there were foreigners, the locals just usually kept quiet. You know, they want to put forward ideas forcefully. And I also guess maybe it's a bit of the Burmese style of being, you know, a bit shy or calm or, you know, not being assertive. It's really an interesting dynamics when you have foreigners in the room and they're arguing a point and the locals are just, you know, sort of watching and going, all right, either way. But I don't know, I hope that changes. But I'm sure, you know, there are lots of Burmese people who are running successful businesses who are taking charge in various positions. So I guess it's not something that will stay that way forever. You're going to have a situation where people get more assertive. But assertive doesn't mean being rude. Assertive doesn't mean being unnecessarily pushy. Assertive just means conveying your idea, what you believe, and being, you know, clear about, you know, what you want to get done, how you expect things to happen. And I think it's changing a bit, but still, you know, Burmese people don't like to rock the boat. You know, they don't like what you're saying. They won't say anything. Then they go after the meeting and go, I really didn't like what he was saying. You shouldn't have done this, but you could have said that in the meeting. So it takes some getting used to, but that is one of the things I sort of noticed around here. This is one of the, when you say traits of different countries, and a lot of Eastern Central Europeans were fascinated by the American culture. And one of the American culture, most icon of American culture was basketball. One of the icons of basketball was Michael Jordan, which probably gives you an idea of which year we're talking about. And I remember when I walking down the street, I could tell the kids from the cities, apart from the kids from the villages. So the kids from the cities will look at, the kids from the villages will look at you, mean like, you know, when they see walking by, you're like, ah. But the kids from the cities who had television and stuff would come and go, Michael Jordan! So it was a running joke. I had friends come over when I was there, come visit me from England, and I'd say to them, look, when we go out and one says Michael Jordan, don't get offended. They go, what do you mean? And we'll step out and so it's, oh, Michael Jordan. And you go, ugh. You're tall, black, and you're bold. You must be Michael Jordan. So yes, so that was one of the traits. It doesn't so much, the Michael Jordan thing doesn't happen here. What happens here is, I was in Junction City about 3 or 4 weeks ago, sometime last year, and we're going down the escalator, and there are kids standing behind me and taking selfies. So it happens all the time. Or I was in Hotel Melia once, and an entire family walked up and said, "Can we take a picture with you?" And this was all in Burmese, and it's sort of signed it. So I've got like 8 people around me taking pictures, and I'm going, you don't even know who I am. So that happens quite a bit. You get stopped in the street, and it's because people are curious about you, and it's very easy to get irritated or offended, but you shouldn't, because you are representing your culture, you're representing your country, you're representing your race, especially for people who are different color. I'm probably the first black person these guys have met, and as far as they're concerned, if I said, oh, you know, stop disturbing me, they will go about saying all black people are rude. It doesn't matter that I'm having a hard day, I'm having a bad day, it doesn't matter. You just put on a grin, put on a smiley face, and just take the picture, pose with them, thank them, and leave. And then you can go be sad somewhere else. But it's interesting. It still happens quite a bit. You go to the dry cleaners and everybody wants to giggle and oh, you go, it's not again. Yeah. So it's one of the prices you pay for being different. and for being a foreigner in the country, and it's just something you have to deal with.
Yeah. What would be your top advice to up-and-coming foreign expats coming in Myanmar? Please give just a few do's and don'ts tips.
Oh well, you see, I am not very interconnected with the foreign community here. I have a few friends. I've been out a bit, but one of the things, one of definitely don'ts, is don't expect it to be like where you're coming from, right? Because everyone comes here and goes, oh, you know, back home I have A, B, C, or I have X, Y, Z. That's not going to happen. So don't expect things to be like where you're coming from. Don't expect everyone to understand your point of view, right? Because after all said and done, there are more people here with their point of view than there's you. But most importantly, do be a good ambassador for your country, for your race, for yourself as an individual. You want to leave a good impression on people. Even doesn't matter how bad your day is going, you really want to sort of step it down a notch when you're out in public. And most importantly, realize that Myanmar is more likely to change you than you are to change Myanmar. And it's just any country you're visiting. It's going to be an experience that rubs off on you more than you rubbing off on the country. So you sort of have to deal with it either of two ways. If you're here for a job, then you just take my philosophy, which means it's a job. That's why I'm getting paid. You're not meant to enjoy it. Just do it, right? If you're here on holiday, then you chose it, enjoy it, and do what you have to do. But all in all, it's always best to leave the country without too much complaint. I agree. If you get service that you're not happy with, let them know. But you can't, bring the whole Western concept of, the way I like my sugar, the way I like my milk, the way I like my bread set out. It's not just going to work, and deal with it. But it can be a fun place if you know how to handle it.
Finally, I want to know how you would describe Myanmar, the country on the whole, to other people who don't know it. Please, in only a couple sentences that would show the most where your views stand on this country.
Well, so in terms of, it's hard to describe any country in a couple of sentences. One of the things about Myanmar is Myanmar has been in the news for a while now, and I have friends who live outside Myanmar, live outside Australia, and I get the occasional call, "Oh, what are you doing in Myanmar? Is there not a war going on?" And I go, "No, there's not a war. There's some areas of unrest, but all in all, it's a functional country. Things are moving along pretty nicely." One of the crucial things we have to understand is, while the press is important, newspapers are important, there is almost a vested interest in selling bad news. No one goes off to buy a newspaper when they say, okay, it's all good news today, nothing to report, we all love each other, we are happy. No one buys the papers. People buy the papers or log into your website when you're talking about, major things are going wrong, people are being butchered, people are being killed. So to me, in my opinion, there's that side of the agenda. I'm not saying everything is perfect. I'm just saying there's a side of the agenda where people want to push the news for the negative, for their own benefits, and of course, it's good for raising money. And you don't go and say, let's raise money for XYZ country. Nothing is happening. It's great to say, let's raise money for XYZ country. People are being killed. So my view of foreigners looking at Myanmar is keep an open mind. Yeah, keep an open mind. If you have cause to be here, come here with an open mind. Expect to find things that are different. Expect to find things you don't like. Expect to find things you like. But no matter what, you just have to be zen about it. You can't change the country. It's more likely to change you. And with that in mind, I wouldn't recommend. So my question is, my thinking here is, if you're a 22-year-old, 25-year-old who is out, trying to, have the time of your life, would I recommend Myanmar? I probably won't, right? And this is just me. When I compare what's going on here, what the young people socially, to what went on for me as a young person socially, completely different ball game. But I think Myanmar is very suited to, somewhere between young, partying like crazy, and about to retire, just that point where you're somewhere in between that, possibly young family, or children who are away. It can be great. It can be a great thing to do. Tourism wise, they are fantastic beaches. I know all of this. I haven't been, but I've actually done the research. They're fantastic places to go. You won't find a lot of great 5-star hotels in the beachfront, but if you want to chill, you want to relax, you want to just let you all hang out, Wi-Fi free life, you could have great places to go to. I went to Bagan, which I did quite enjoy, and that was my one trip out of Yangon in 5 or 6 years, and I intend to do a bit more before I leave. So I really want to experience life outside Yangon, and there are great things to do. So I would suggest do it, but do it with an open mind.
Of course. Well, thank you so much, Mr.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
That was our interview with Mr. Odia Ukoko. I hope you got some interesting and useful benefits for your education and entertainment after learning about a foreign expat's views from the outside towards our little country, Myanmar. There's so much more entertainment coming regularly, once or twice or thrice weekly on MC House. So please follow the page and stay tuned. Have a fantastic day.